Before we start looking through today's verses, because they're so controversial, we would be showing immense wisdom by going back and reviewing the previous 5 chapters to look for the progression of things. If we don't, we are going to violate the 3rd, 4th, and 5th of our top 5 Bible interpretation rules. Context, context, and context. Chapter 1 gives us an overall view of the 6 days of creation. On the 6th day, man is created, at which time God proclaimed everything very good, or as he says in Hebrew, tov meod. Let's note right here that angels are not mentioned in this creation account at all. The focus is on God, the visible creation, and man. After noting that God's rest is established on the 7th day of creation, chapter 2 becomes a detailed insert into that 6th day of creation. The creation of man, the Garden of Eden, the creation of woman, and various other details are given in chapter 2. As with chapter 1, man and God are the focus of these chapters. Actually, I should say God and man, but it's from man's perspective. Chapter 3 details the temptation and the fall of man, the curse of the serpent, the sentencing of the man and the woman, and man's exile from Eden, which is all a very ghastly business, but once again, man is the focus of this particular account and his relationship with God. Then we get into chapter 4, which provides insights into the birth of Cain and then Abel and the murder of Abel. And immediately after that account, it jumps directly into the account of Cain and his lineage, deriving from Adam through Cain down to the 8th man from Adam. During this account, there is one particular name which seems to appear for almost no reason at all. And we were talking about this in a Bible study a week and a half ago. It was the day right after we had done the previous week's sermon. And I said, I mentioned this person's name 3 times at least in order for you to remember it. And one of the guys, it was Jim, you said, remember that what you said? You said, well, I don't remember you saying that 3 times. I watched the sermon yesterday. He got it uploaded. I mentioned it 8 times. That's how important this name is, okay? Anyway, here's what it says in verse 22. Abruptly and without explanation, it says this, and the sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah. At the end of the Cain account, it suddenly shifts again. And Adam knew his wife again, it says, and she bore a son and named him Seth. For God has appointed another seed for me instead of Abel, whom Cain killed. And as for Seth, to him also a son was born, and he named him Enosh. Then men began to call on the name of the Lord. All of this details the history of man on earth, and it is the focus of what we've read. All of it included types and pictures of the coming Christ. Almost every verse that I've read at one point or another, I've said, see how this points to Jesus Christ. Chapter 5 then gives the record of the first 10 people in Jesus' lineage from Adam down through Seth and all the way to Noah. And this is about the history of man on earth. And it is being set in direct contrast to the preceding chapter, which is the line of Cain. So you have the line of Cain, then you've got the line of Seth, or coming from Adam through Seth and then down to Noah. These records, these genealogies, and these generations have been very carefully recorded for us, and then they've been very strategically placed in the Bible. And we've evaluated them in these past months and have been shown that direct contrast between the two groups of people. Any attempt then to insert something beyond what we have evaluated into chapter 6 would be to completely misuse the Bible. The Bible so far is progressively revealing God's workings in and through his creation for the good of man and for the redemption of mankind. And as we saw in chapter 5, the gospel is actually recorded in the names of those 10 people from Adam down to Noah. We've seen the doctrine of divine election begin in the Bible, where God chooses the second of something over the first of something. And this pattern, as I said last week, will continue all the way through the Bible, even to the very last pages, but it will become as clear as crystal before we leave the book of Genesis. And we've also been introduced into the concept of acceptance by God being based on faith and not on works. We've also seen God's mode of salvation, which is it being initiated by him and it being completed by him. And everything in between is a gift from him. All of these concepts and many more we've pulled out of the first 5 chapters of the books of Genesis.